What's Hero Tyler's back with here on the Retro Reviews, here on Tyler's Retro Reviews. With TNA Hard Justice 2005. Sorry for the little dramatic reveal, but it's not really a dramatic reveal because you obviously know from last week's review. So yeah. So the next 2 weeks, by the way, are TNA pay-per-view reviews. You obviously know. It's on. This event took place on May 15th, which is today. So it's the 20th anniversary of this event. The Impact's in Orlando, Florida. So yeah. Um. So we come from lockdown to this event because AJ Styles won a number one contenders match to face Jeff Jarrett at this pay-per-view. And there are some scenarios about this event. One, this was the first pay-per-view after the passing of Chris Candido. If you know about the whole sad tragedy about him at lockdown, he broke his leg and passed away like a few days after that Impact taping. It's sad to think about this 20 years later. Ugh. This is the last TNA pay-per-view appearance of DDP because he would go on to retire after this. I mean, outside of a few matches, but this was basically the end of his entire wrestling career. Hey, it was better than his run in WWE with the whole stalker shenanigans and being a. But still, I mean, love Diamond Dallas Page, but yeah. This is technically the second last pay-per-view before they lost their deal on Fox Sports Net. Because this is around the time they will move. Well, until October, that is. They move to Spike TV. And more on that when I ever get to Bound for Glory later this year. It's gonna be in October, okay. I may do that in the 2011 one later this year, and I will do some Halloween Havoc, and I will do a No Mercy also. I'll do a vote for that on my main channel. That is sometime later on, but yeah. But only 3 I'm gonna choose for that: 2010, 2003, and 2005. Anyways. And this is technically the second to last time we see Dusty Rhodes produce a pay-per-view because I believe this was the last one. I don't know about all that. Regardless, let's get on to Hard Justice 2005. And the main event is Jeff Jarrett versus AJ Styles for the world title with Tito Ortiz as the special guest referee. Yeah. Now, normally I don't talk about pre-show matches because I only skip them to get to the main card, but there's a match on here to get an entry in the Gauntlet for the Gold with Sharkboy 1 defeating Master the Capture Driver Slam David Young. If you know, you know. Market E would say these ridiculous lines. Of course, the best one is a Wild Slap Nuts appearance, and here he is. Regardless, let's get on to this. With a tag team match between Eric Young and P. Williams defeats Apollo and Sonny Siaki. Marky D refers to as "Don't look at his ass." Yeah. This was a fine tag match. they're going to be later on in that Gauntlet for the Gold, which is basically a Royal Rumble match, but last... We'll get to that. Still. A 6 out of 10, fine match. Then we get a mixed tag match between Michael Shane and, well, it was Michael Shane and Trinity versus Chris Sabin and Tracy Brooks. But then at the end of it, it's Michael Shane and Tracy won the match. Yeah. Weird booking at the end, but still. 6 out of 10 I'll give this also. And then we get the Clockwork Orange House of Fun match. Now, this was originally supposed to be Raven versus Jeff Hardy, but we all know the demons Jeff Hardy was having around this time period. And I do not want to get into that whole thing. So, long story short, he didn't show up, and his replacement was Sean Wolfman. So Raven defeats Sean Wolfman in this House of Fun match. It's basically a hardcore match, but I honestly like the idea of TNA having their own stipulated matches, like the House of Fun match. And I actually have a guilty pleasure for the King of the Mountain match also, and however, there are some really stupid stipulated matches they did, like Reverse Battle Royal and Fight for the Right, that is. Why? Don't know. Still. Yeah, a 7 out of 10 I'll give this. This is actually a really fun match. Speaking of replacements, the next match, DDP was originally supposed to team up with BT James, but he allegedly no-showed the building. Did not show up to the building, so Ron Killings took his place. That's the second straight match where somebody did not show up in a match. Although this one is storytelling, really. So it's Marty Brown and Kip James, or the Outlaw, but this was before he was called Kip James, defeats Diamond Dallas Page and Ron Killings. Fine tag match. Like I said, this is DDP's last appearance in TNA, so at least he had a redeeming run than that Stalker storyline. Ugh. Still, it was what it was. I mean, the match, it was a decent match again. At 6.5, and there. Then we get for the end of the TNA Tag Team Championships. The Naturals defeats America's Most Wanted to retain the tag team titles. They won the titles on that same Impact taping that Candido unfortunately passed away, like, after the filming or something like that. And they would not be heels for very much longer after this, so unfortunately their reign will be dropped will end at, when they move to Spike TV, that's what I meant to say. More on that when I talk about Bound for Glory later this 2005's Bound for Glory later on this year. Fine. Actually, this was a good match. An 8 out of 10 I'll give it. Actually, I give it, yeah. Never mind. Next up is for the TNA X Division Championship. Christopher Daniels defeats Shocker to retain the X Division Championship. Fine match again. It was another good match. And no complaints there. 8.5 I'll give it. And then we get a 20-man gauntlet for the gold to determine the number one contender for the world title at the next pay-per-view Slammiversary. if you know what this is, it's a Royal Rumble match. But once it comes down to the final two, it's pinfall or submission. So yeah, Abyss won this match, and he gets the title shot the next pay-per-view. 1 month from now, Abyss will be in 2K25 as a DLC character. The first DLC was out yesterday. And there's that. Regardless, let's talk about... Number 1 was Bobby Roode, because on the final Impact before this, he was the first man eliminated in that preview gauntlet match, where the winner of that becomes the final entrant in this match. And number 2 is Zach Gowen. All due respect to him, but it's uncomfortable to wrestle with one leg. I know, I just should not say, but anyways. Number 3 was Eric Young. Number 4 was Cassidy Riley. Number 5 was Elix Skipper. Number 6 was Shark Boy, who eliminates Zach Gowen. Number 7 was A1, the biggest jabroni in the group. Eliminated Shark Boy, surprisingly. And then Cassidy Riley was eliminated by Eric Young. And then 8 was Chris Sabin. We're not there yet. Number 9 was Petey Williams. And number 10 was Sonny Siaki. 11 was Lance Hoyt. And number 12 was Michael Shane, who he and Chris Sabin eliminated each other to continue that storyline from earlier in the night. So at least there's continuity there. And then Siaki was eliminated by the 3 Team Canada members. Also, Lance Hoyt eliminates Rude eliminates Ellis Skipper, and then Eric Young gets eliminated by Lance Hoyt also, and then Sabin and Shane will eliminate each other. 13 was Jarrell Clark, and then Siaki was eliminated by the 3 Team Canada members, and then Jarrell Clark was eliminated by Petey Williams, and Mikey Batch, who the hell was he, gets eliminated by the next entrant, the Outlaw. Going through who were in it. 16 was Trident. Did not last long. Gets eliminated by the 3 Team Canada members also. 17 was Ron Killings. And then number 18 was Apollo, who gets eliminated by the Outlaw also. And number 19 was BG James. So this was basically a storytelling match. So there's that. Before we get to the next one, Lance Hoyt eliminates Bobby Roode, and Lance Hoyt gets eliminated by A1 and Bobby Roode also. And then P. Williams is eliminated by the pre-James King as well as A1. And then the last entrant was Abyss, who eliminates both of them. It came down to Ron Killings and Abyss again. The last two is a pinfall submission time match. I don't know why they do that. I much would prefer everyone gets eliminated by over the top row rules, but then Abyss won by pinning Ron Killings. He gets the title shot. But that led to a King of Mountain match at Slammiversary, if I ever talk about that. Still, it was a fine gauntlet for the gold, but there. I hope we get a bit of AJ Styles Rivals dialogue in 2K25. Again, I don't want to talk about that, but still, I hope they do. Still, 7.5 I'll give this match. And then the main event for the NWA TNA World Heavyweight Championship with Tito Ortiz as special guest referee. AJ Styles defeats Jeff Jarrett to win the World Heavyweight Championship. He did what Mike Brown couldn't do. Let's go back to Victory Road, all the periods that happened. I'm not counting tournament point because Jarrett did not defend the title there. He did what Jeff Hardy couldn't do. He couldn't do what Mike Brown couldn't do. He couldn't do what Kevin Nash did. And he couldn't do what Diamond Dallas Page did, and that's defeat Jeff Jarrett. This is the best match on this show, and Jarrett and AJ always work well together. AJ wins by storing up his 3 finishers in the spiral tap and becomes the world champion. He will not hold the title again until 2009, unfortunately, because he will lose the belt in a Kingdom Out match at the next pay-per-view when Raven won it. Still, 8.5 I'll give this match. So, yeah. Still, Andy came when Jarrett shoved Tito Ortiz and then punches Jarrett, and that's how AJ does the spiral tap for the 3, but still a great match, still. So, fun show, fun pay-per-view. Still enjoyed it for what it is. A 6.8 out of 10 I give this. There was not even really a bad match on this show, so yeah. But anyways, next week we're gonna stay, but we're going 4 years later with TNA Lockdown 2009 because we gotta talk about the aftermath of Destination X with Sting and Mick Foley. Mick Foley wins the fucking world title. What in the name of fuck? But that's next week. Saturday will be Internal Ascendant, the pay-per-view. And Sunday will be the Dumpster Fires. I just said before, the Raw and SmackDown will be back next month. So, there's that. All that will be on my main channel, by the way. So, like this video, comment below, subscribe to this channel here, click the notification bell. As well as my main channel also. So you'll get more. So, like I said, next week will be TNA Lockdown 2009. And there. Bye-bye.